everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make a classic balloon decor piece. I'm going to be making this beautiful string of pearl arch. I'm going to be using gold and black latex balloons. They are pearl finished, there's no chrome involved in this one unfortunately. I know everybody really loves chrome, and I'm going to show you from start to finish how to make the arch, how to weight it, and how to make sure your arch looks absolutely perfect for your customer. So let's get started. Today then that I'm going to be making is for a prom. It's black and gold themed, so I've just got a selection of black and gold Qualitex 11-inch balloons. These are just the standard gold, there's no chrome involved in this particular one. Then I've got 4 balloon weights, which I'm going to use 2 on either side of the arch, and then for the actual line I'm using a 25-pound fishing line. It's a little bit thicker than the 7-pound one, and this is my preference for a larger string of pearl arch, which is what this one is. First thing that you need to do then is get a couple of your balloon weights, and these do come with these little eyes on them, but I wouldn't recommend tying your line into these eyes because they can come off. They are only attached to the weight by this little sort of wire thing here, which is a bit like what you get for a sandwich bag tie. So I don't tend to use those, so I'm going to just wrap that around so it's quite tight on there. As you can see, that's just pulled off really easily, so I won't be using those today. Wrap that around there again, and then I'm just going to get my line here. I leave about maybe 12 inches at the bottom, and then I just gather it around the 2 weights around the main neck of the weight and just tie that on there. You want to try and do a permanent knot on there. So to do a permanent knot, just start off with your normal knot, go through the loop once, go through it twice, go through it 3 times and pull tight, and then that's what is considered to be a permanent knot. So that's a good weight there for the arch to start off with. Next, you're going to want to high float each one of your balloons. If you want them to last longer than just for the event, I would always recommend high floating. We don't send anything out of the shop here without it being high floated, so all of our balloons are treated with this. And basically what this does is coat the inside of your balloon with like a plasticky layer. It is water soluble though, so you know, if you get it on anything or you pop a balloon when you're inflating, it will wash off quite easily. I just put a pea-sized amount into each balloon and just rub it all around the inside, and then they're ready to be inflated. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So the high float pump comes with this nozzle on the top, and all you need to do is just get your balloon, pop it onto the nozzle, and you do get collars for the bottle of high float, but to be honest with you, I don't generally tend to take much notice of that. It's just there as a guide to stop you from putting too much in. So what I do is pull my balloon quite taut onto the end, and then I can push that down, just see that there's a little bit gone into the balloon. You want to just try and get it off at the neck there so that you don't get any high float into this actual neck, because that can make it difficult to tie the balloon. And then what you want to do is just rub that high flow all the way around the inside of that balloon and make sure that it's really nicely evenly coated just on the inside of the balloon. And I've done all of these ones already, so they're all ready to be inflated as the next step. Another thing to mention when you're working with high float, when you've finished doing the high floating, make sure you turn your nozzle up like that, because sometimes it can drip out of this nozzle and then it causes a big mess on your countertop, and also it's a big waste of the high float. Do you remember when we used to watch balloon modelers doing their balloons when we were kids, and they used to always pre-stretch their balloon, or what they would do is inflate it and then they would let some air out of it, and what they're doing there is just to make sure that that balloon isn't going to pop straight away, and they're just giving it a bit of a stretch, which helps it to gain more elasticity for when you're actually inflating it properly. And that's what we need to do with these today. So I always inflate all of my balloons first of all on an air inflator, just to overstretch them. Here's one I've already done. You can see it's gone all wrinkly, and then this one is one that hasn't been done just yet. So you can see the difference in them just there. I'm going to pre-inflate them all just with air and let them down. And at the moment, as we know, helium's really expensive, so this is also a good way of finding out if a balloon's got a fault on it, if it's got a thin spot where it's going to pop. is going to pop now on this air inflator rather than popping when it's full of helium and being really expensive. So the only thing that you're going to end up wasting is your balloon and maybe the high float if you've used high float inside your balloon as well. So let's inflate all of these with air and then we can move on to actually putting the arch together. So what you want to do is just get yourself an air inflator. This is the one I use in the shop, and all I'm going to do is just inflate this to just over 11 inches and then I'm going to let it out and let all the air go. I'm going to do that with all of my balloons, and this arch contains 21 balloons, so 11 of each colour. And the reason that I'm using an odd number is so that we avoid getting a flat spot at the top of the arch, so it's a nice continuous arch. If we used an even number of balloons, it would go up, then you'd have a flat spot at the very top and then it will come back down again, and that's definitely something that we want to avoid. The next step then is to inflate with helium. So I'm using my split second sizer today. I am going to be inflating these to just over 10 inches. So what I'm going to do is just pop my timer up to 1.9 to start with, and I'll check that size and then see what it comes out like. So this is the size that I'm going to be using today. It's a 10-inch one. So as long as my balloons are quite full into this 10-inch size, I'll be quite happy with that size. And once I've got my size set on my split second sizer, I don't need to keep measuring them again. So this will do it automatically because it's done on a time. I've got this set to 1.9 seconds, so that's how long it's going to take to inflate each one of my balloons. If you're using a tilt valve off of a helium cylinder to inflate instead of a machine, I do have a video on that if you're unsure of how to do it. I'll link that above now and down below for you in the description, so you can check that video out. But I would definitely recommend getting a sizer if you're going to be doing this off of a helium cylinder, because this definitely makes it a lot easier to get that really classic look and make sure that all of your balloons are exactly the same size, and that's exactly what we want when we're doing a classic string of pearl arch. I've got my balloon all high floated. It's also been pre-inflated and pre-stretched. I'm just going to rub all that high float back around again just to make sure I've got a good even spread, because when the balloons are like this waiting to be inflated, it can run to the edges and we don't want that to happen. So that's done now. What I'm going to do is pop it onto my inflator and then just inflate that. Okay, let's just check that size. So that is perfect. As you can see, that is right over there. 10 inches would have my sizer coming down to about here where my finger is, so about there. So I'm happy with that size at 1.9 seconds. So now that we've got our balloon inflated, I haven't tied it, and I'm going to tie it onto this line. And I've seen this done in so many different ways before on people's videos or whatever, but this is the official way of doing it. You should always tie it onto here. I've seen people who they've gotten their balloon, they've tied it in a knot, then they've put a needle through here and they've sewed it onto the line. Or I've seen it where people they've tied it, they've put a ribbon on it, and then they've tied the ribbon onto the line. That's gonna go, that will work, but it's gonna end up with you having a really unsecure balloon attachment onto your line, and you want it to be attached really well so that it's not going to slide up and down the line and it's not going to move, especially if you're transporting it or your customer is transporting it. So what you'll want to do is just get just get a little bit of line out so you've got a good piece here to work with. And what you're going to do, I'm just going to move this closer so that you can see it. What you're going to want to do is get your line so that it is over your balloon there, like that. And then you're just going to tie that balloon onto the line. And it's literally just a case of tying a knot around the line. So you can see now that that is fully attached there onto that line. And if I bring it in close, you can see exactly where that line goes through that knot and comes out on the other side. So that's perfect. What I'm going to do now is just stretch that out, and then I'm going to add another balloon here. I'm going to alternate black and gold all the way through, and you'll see how this arch takes shape really pretty quickly once we start. can use. If you're going to be transporting your arch, or you're putting it in some bags to give it to your customer, or maybe you're taking it to a venue to put it out, what you'll need to do probably is readjust the distances between the balloons, because if they're put into a bag, then they may move during transit. And the really simple and easy way of doing this is to use one of these. So this is like a money counting sponge that you can get it from wholesalers, and I think sometimes they sell them in the pound shops and stuff. And it's just basically a sponge, and it's wet. So what we do is just wet your fingers on it, and then pop your wet fingers onto the actual line here, and then that will allow your balloon to slide really freely down that line, and it won't tear your balloon because it's got the liquid in between there, and it's going in between the knots, so it's not going to rip your balloon at all. So that's a really good tip if you need to readjust the distances in between your balloons on your arch. And the last thing I was just going to mention before I sign off with this design is, because I'm going to be taking this one to a prom later on today, I'm going to leave this attached to my candle jar, because I'm using this as a weight at the moment, but I'm not sure about the height of the arch and that sort of thing. So if I tie it off now, I'm sort of stuck with the size of it as it is. So if I leave this temporary weight on here, I'll be able to check the height when I get to the venue and just make sure I've got it absolutely perfectly for their ceiling height. Doesn't it look fab now that it's finished? I'm really pleased with how it's turned out, and I really think that classic decor is starting to make a comeback. We do love organic, but classic is definitely the way to go, and this arch is absolutely no exception to that. It's going to be going to a prom later on today, so everybody's going to see it later on. I'll probably pop some pictures on Instagram if you're interested in seeing those. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, I'd love to see you again for another one, so don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions or any comments, please drop them down below, and I'll see you again for another one. Bye!